Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to show you how can we integrate FirewallD with SSH. So let's begin. For the lab demonstration purpose, I have three VMs, VM1, VM2 and VM3. All of the VMs have CentOS 8 installed as the operating system. Okay. And for simplicity purpose, I have added the IP address of VM1 in the host file of VM2 and VM3. Okay. So let's verify that first. The IP address of VM1 is 192.168.122.75, and if I go to the host file of VM2, then I can see that VM1, the word VM1 has been mapped with this address. And if I go here, then it's same here as well. This IP address has been mapped with VM1. So what this basically means is, now if I have to test ping response, or if I have to check the connectivity between VM1 and VM3, or if I have to do SSH, then instead of using IP address, I can simply use the name that I have specified in host file. I mean to say ping VM1. Then if I do ping VM1, then the word VM1 gets translated into the IP address. Okay. The reason for doing excuse me, is actually there are a couple of reasons. The first reason is we do not remember IP address all the time. So if I input the IP address in the host file, then I do not have to remember the IP address. I can simply remember the name, which is easier for me. And the other thing, and the other reason of putting this IP address in the host file is we do not have a DNS server currently. So if you do not have a DNS server, then you can simply get a basic function of DNS server using HCHost. Okay. And likewise, if I go to VM2 and if I do ping VM1, then we can see that the word VM1 has translated into the IP address. All right. Okay. So currently VM2 and VM3 can SSH into VM1. So let's verify that too. Suppose if I go to VM2 and do SSH root@VM1, and if I put the password, then I am currently logged into VM1. Likewise, if I go to VM3 and SSH root@VM1, then I'm logged into VM1. Okay. All right. Now our requirement is VM2 should be able to SSH into VM1, but VM3 should not do SSH into VM1. Let me write that here. Our requirement is VM2 should be able to SSH into VM1, but VM3 should not. Okay. I hope you get the scenario well. Okay. There are actually a lot of ways in doing so, but for this lab we will be using FirewallD. Actually, FirewallD is the enhanced version of IP tables, which was introduced in CentOS 7. Prior CentOS 7, there used to be IP tables, but after CentOS 7, FirewallD was introduced, and for this lab we will be using FirewallD. All right. First of all, let's check the IP address of both the machines. Okay. All right. Now let's configure rules. The very first command, before that, let's first check if the FirewallD is installed or not, and for that we can use rpm-qa. QA means query all. This command basically queries all the packages that are installed in the system, and we do not want all the list, rather we want the filter output, and that's why we are piping it and doing grep -i FirewallD. And I stands for ignore the case. Suppose I do not know if F starts with capital F or W as capital W or D has capital D. So if I put -I, then it ignores the case, and whatever the alphabet is, it will display. Okay. And if from the output we can see that the FirewallD has been installed in the system. And if we want to verify if the service is running or not, then we can do with a couple of commands. Actually, a couple of ways. The first way is systemctl status FirewallD. The output shows that it's active and running. The other way of verifying it is firewall-cmd-state. It will show the state of FirewallD, and this also shows that the FirewallD is running. Alright, now let's start configuring rules. In FirewallD, for this lab, we have to configure reach rule. Actually, FirewallD is a huge topic and I can't cover here in this video, but I hope I will make a series on FirewallD later. Alright. And when you are configuring FirewallD, the first command that you are supposed to enter in the shell is firewall-cmd. This is actually the first command you will be hitting 100% of the time when configuring FirewallD. Firewall-cmd. After firewall-cmd, you will use add-reach-rule. You have to configure a reach rule, and after this we'll use double quote, and rule family is IPv4. Alright, and source address equals to, we have to specify the address, in this case VM3's address, and we are doing reject. And since we started with the double quote, we have to in a double quote. Let's check if there is any typo. Firewall-cmd add-reach rule family is IPv4, source address is this, and reject. This basically means any traffic that's originating from this IP will get rejected in VM1. Alright, and if I hit enter, something has been misconfigured. Let's check where I mistyped the command. Address is fine, maybe. Is this causing the problem? No. Add-reach-rule family equals to IPv4, that's fine. Source addrs address is fine, and that is also fine. I'm not being able to figure out where the problem is. I think this is the problem. Yes. Space is causing the problem. Anyways, now let's check if the rule has been implemented or applied, and for that we have to do firewall-cmd-list -all. And at the end, in reach rule section, we can see that the rule has been configured. Okay, and let's check if this rule is working. So first of all, let's try to SSH into VM1. SSH root@VM1. The output shows that the connection is refused. So I think our configuration in VM1 worked. Let's check with the ping VM1. Unfortunately, ping is not working too. That means when we configure the rule basically is telling us that every traffic from this IP will get rejected in VM1. So ping is also not working, SSH is also not working, but our agenda was just to block SSH service, not the ping. Okay, and before that, one more thing I would like to show you. Suppose if I reload the firewall, systemctl restart FirewallD. If I restart the firewall, then will the rule persist? Let's check. I restart the firewall. Firewall is running, and firewall-cmd-list as all. I'm sorry, the rules have gone. So what can we do so that the rule persists? Alright, for that we have to do -- permanent. You can put it anywhere. If you are comfortable, you can put it at the end, or you can put it before add reach rule as well. You can put out of firewall-cmd, or you can put at the end. Both will work. And if I hit enter, and if I verify first if the rule is working, okay, list as all. Okay, currently it's not showing, but if I restart the firewall, then it should show. Yes. Okay, if you add the word -- permanent, then it would survive reboot. Okay, all right. Okay, and okay, let's go back. What was our agenda? Our agenda was to block SSH from VM3, but unfortunately every traffic from VM3 was blocked, which is really sad. So let's only block SSH port and open all the traffic. Alright. First of all, let's remove this rule, just to check that SSH will work after removing this rule. And in place of add, if you do remove, then the rule will get removed. Firewall-cmd, sorry, systemctl restart, so FirewallD, and if you do this, the rules are gone. And now if you try to SSH into it, it worked. And if you ping is also working, no issues now. So let's go back and configure rules in such a way that only SSH port gets affected. All right. To save my time, I have prepared a small note. Let's check that note here. And I have mentioned checking if firewall is installed, checking the state of firewall, listing firewall rules, reloading, making it permanent, and so and so. So for this purpose, I am going to copy this one. Okay, I'm going to paste it, and in the IP address I will put the IP address of VM3 192.168 dot, I don't know, 122.75 122.75. Okay, what this rule basically means: block the traffic from 122.75 for port number 22. Okay, the rule is self-explanatory, so I don't have to tell so much about it. If I hit enter, and now if I, here is -- permanent, so there wouldn't be an issue if I reload the firewall. And if I check firewall-cmd this as all, then we can see at the end in the reach rule section for port number 22 from this IP, it will reject. So now let's check from VM3. First of all, let's do with SSH root@VM1. Sorry, oh, it's already in VM1. Let's exit outwards. Okay, SSH VM1 root@VM1. It's working. Oops, where did we go wrong? Let's check. Port number 20 from 75. Is that 75? No, 222. God, sorry guys, I mistyped the IP address. Let me do that again. And this is the IP address of VM3 192.168.122.229. I think this is the IP address. Okay, and if I hit enter and if I restart the FirewallD and if I check, then at the end we can see that this rule, which basically means from this IP for port number 22 the traffic will get rejected. Now let's verify from here. SSH root @VM1. I'm sorry, the connection is refused. And what about ping? Ping is working. Here I'm really sorry that I mistyped the IP address, so I'm sorry. And if I have to remove this, I can do simply remove. Yes, 75. So still restart FirewallD and firewall cmd. Okay, the earlier rule has been removed and this is the rule that we really wanted to put. Okay, so this is it for this lab. I hope you learned something new. See you in next video. Thank you.